Good evening, everyone, or afternoon. Actually, it's still a little early. I'd like to call to order the Human Services Committee meeting for February 2011. Today's topic is review of proposed changes in the Northampton County Mental Health Program. Let me give a little background. Mr. Jim Gregory had came forward stating there were some changes that were happening within the mental health agency, and it was possibly going to affect some of the consumers. Well, at our request and very much with the great help of Mr. Marcus, we thought this would be a great topic for February's Human Services Committee meeting. And since a lot of us were kind of baffled when it first came out, and maybe more of a background might be, as far as a more detailed information on what's going on, might be beneficial. So I would like to call forward Mr. Marcus first. Always a great attendant of these meetings. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce, because I'm not sure you'll know everybody. Obviously, Kathleen Kelly, all of you know Kathleen. Wendy Heatley's been here several times dealing with the closure of the Allentown State Hospital. And Den Nunez was just recently promoted to become our Health Choices Administrator, but her former position was the Intensive Case Management Supervisor. So she is here in that capacity. Then we have two of our caseworkers who are in attendance, Jim Gregory and Ray Murphy. You're going to hear a lot of discussion back and forth, so let me just start by sort of synthesizing it down to three basic points and a conclusion. First of all, no consumers will lose service as a result of these changes. Consumers' needs will continue to be met. Number two, no employees will lose their jobs.
Thank you.
2 employees will be reassigned to other duties, but no employees will lose their job. And then number 3, the change will allow us to serve other populations that are currently underserved. And those are older adults, veterans, and the prison population. So, in conclusion, it's not a matter of these consumers not being served or us not being concerned about their well-being. It's about how to make the best use of the staff we have. The consumers will be well served by nonprofit providers who have been involved in the program, at least one of them, since the program's inception in 1989. It will also enable staff to serve the other populations who are currently underserved. Now, some detail. Intensive case management, as I mentioned, was started in 1989. At that time, we contracted, also in addition to providing services in-house, we also contracted with an agency to provide similar services. We understand, or I hope you understand, that the population served by this program is somewhat limited. Those who are on Medicaid, the federal program, health care for low-income individuals, are not served by the county. They are served by Health Choices, so they would receive this sort of service through nonprofit providers, and also have been done since the program's inception. So in
other words, Health Choices, the folks who are with that part of it, as you just stated, have been with private since the very beginning.
Yes, since 2003? 2001. Okay. And ever since the inception of Health Choices. So, numbers. We're talking about 50 individuals, consumers who are currently being served by the caseworkers. 30 cases will be transferred to the 4 nonprofit organizations. 18 will be staying in-house because they are older adults or veterans, and 2 will be stepping down to a lower level of service. Currently, the 4 nonprofit organizations are serving 49 consumers through the intensive case management program. We have been assured by the providers that they have the capacity to serve the 30 additional individuals we are asking them to take on. We have a caseworker who meets with each of the 4 nonprofits on a monthly basis to review the cases and to ensure that they are receiving quality services. That will continue in the future. As part of the transition, we will hold at least one meeting with the consumer, the current caseworker, and the future caseworker to assure an orderly transition from the county to the nonprofit organization. We will also have a staff person available for the next couple of months to assist the nonprofits and the consumers and to, again, monitor the transition and ease the transition. We understand Mr. Gregory's concern about the services. He's rightfully proud of the services that he and his colleagues have provided over the years, but that really doesn't mean that other organizations can't provide quality services too. The changes are part of a bigger prioritization effort that Kathleen and Wendy did when Wendy was promoted into her new position, what, about 8 months ago? So this is part of a bigger effort to prioritize and to get us ready for whatever happens in the future with budget cuts and that sort of thing. As an example, this will hopefully enable us to get people out of prison quicker. It'll help us to get them aligned with services they need in the community. We currently have a staff person who spends a great deal of their time in the prison assisting prisoners in Northampton County Jail. And the recidivism rate for those who he serves is much lower than the general population. So there has been success through this effort. But currently, first of all, there's much greater demand for his time and what he can do than anything he could provide. So he needs help. But in addition, we're ignoring the state correctional institutions with many Northampton County residents who are returned to the community and who are falling between the cracks currently. And so this is another population we would like to begin to assist and reach out to. The new emphasis on older adults has, in addition to what Kathleen and Wendy and their prioritization work, this is also something that was encouraged by John Mailer, administrator of our Area Agency on Aging. So we think it makes a great deal of sense. We think these are logical changes. I can't imagine Mr. Stofa would be very happy with me if I came to him for new positions to provide this sort of service. So we're really left with how do we make do with the best way we can with the staff that we have. And that's what we've tried to do. Thank you.
I noticed Mr. Gregory is not in the room at this time, but there was some statements that were made that basically stated that there would be, even though we might maintain the same numbers of consumers and everything, and from the sounds of it, we're actually expanding our outreach as far as who we can service. The greatest concern, I hate to put words in his mouth, but or speak for him.
Here he is.
Here he is.
Sorry, one of my clients has been driving around the block for the last hour trying to find it. It's getting closer. Honorable members of County Human Service Committee, I'm Jim Gregory. I work for Mental Health Services, as you know, as an intensive case manager. I'm also a county taxpayer and a shop steward for SAU at the Bechtel Building. Last time I was before full council, I wasn't allowed to address you late in a meeting. I was told because someone had a mistaken idea about client privacy concerns. I spoke since with an employee who teaches our privacy trainings, and he assured me that that's not an issue. As you're aware, we were told that our department will be abolished, and we were asked to assign our clients to private agencies and elsewhere. This was attempted back in 2003. Two of the council members here tonight, I believe Mr. Dowd was council president at the time, stopped it after hearing arguments on the issue. You saved lives by doing so. There's no question about that. Some clients have come before you or written, and they may have praised me. However, it's not me. It's the program that you saved that saved those lives. Had you not done so, I'd still be in Children and Youth pulling my hair out with the rest of their caseworkers. Instead, I'm working in mental health, where it's been suggested by some that's a perfect fit for me. Sadly enough, they were editorial writers. All kidding aside, we now have 40 or so mental health clients who depend on us for support. In many cases, we are their only support. A couple of examples, one who spoke at the meeting, most of his family, his mother's in a nursing home, and he has no family or friends in the area. I'm pretty much his full support. Another woman who came from Philadelphia, I'm pretty much her full support, and she's in crisis now, and we just picked up this person. Many we have stabilized over the years, and they're doing fine. However, they're always one crisis away from serious problems. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we had a person who was suicidal when we picked up the case. We got him through all that. We've been many crises since, but he's pretty much stabilized. But right before Christmas, sadly enough, he lost his father suddenly and then dropped into crisis again. We have new clients, as I had mentioned before, who are also in crisis. Most of the time they come to us in crisis. And my concern, especially then and still now, is that there was a set deadline on when we weren't going to see these people, and I think they need as much time as possible as to if we have to transition. I know we're up against it here, and we might not win that case, but if we have to transition, I'm hoping we're given enough time as possible. Usually, when we transition to these other agencies, we have problems because of their lack of staff. I'd say 90% of the time I've called them, they couldn't get a client in because of their staffing issues. And the problem with farming them out to other agencies is most staff are underpaid and overworked, and this causes constant staff turnover and eventually problems with care and consistency care. If anyone tells you that's not the case, they're being less than truthful or have a different agenda. We're not belittling these agencies. I could be working there today for all that matters, but at the same time, again, most of them there, just because of the salaries, it seems like the CEOs of these agencies make the money and the people who work there don't. But most of these agencies are always looking for people because of the staff's turnover, so I don't believe they're going to be served as well as they would with the county. Also, as I mentioned previously, our clients mostly are hardworking middle-class Americans who, after years of hard work, suffered debilitating losses that they could not recover from. They deserve the best of care. They shouldn't be pushed aside for new initiatives. I was informed that many of my new duties would be working with prisoners. They sometimes, I have a good friend who works in prisons. He's in drug and alcohol. He does assessments, works with the clients, and at a terrific cost to the county, he does these assessments, and then the clients continue to reoffend, and the whole process starts over again. I think, giving up the clients that we're working with now and moving to the prison population is probably not the best way to spend taxpayer dollars, certainly. Let's not forget, we do save taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars by keeping our clients stabilized and functioning. If we keep them out of hospitals, the savings are enormous because of the Medicare savings that occur, and that's basically why we're part of a reason we're here. As I mentioned previously, the Gifford shootings in Arizona have shown us that it's dangerous to let mental health clients fall through the cracks. That was mainly due to lack of recognition and care. We haven't had that problem here until now. I'm hoping you can consider helping change the direction of administration's plans. Despite concerns about administrative and executive lines, I overheard Mr. Angle express that at the last meeting. I understand he's a fierce advocate of separation of powers, and he abhors blurring those lines. But you have the power to budget, and as long as you do, you have the power of persuasion. Don't let our clients down. Change the direction of the administrative directive. Thank you.
I'm hearing two different kind of viewpoints. One is that clients aren't going to be affected, and some clients. You can stay there, Mr. Gregory. I'm trying to figure out some of the things. We just heard Mr. Marcus come up and say that our services would be expanded into other areas and more consumers would be positively affected by the proposed changes. However, you're making statements that the proposed changes could provide a volatile environment for our current consumers. It sounds like two different kind of things. They might be both true, actually, or less than true. I'm trying to figure out, are we trying to look into the magic 8 ball or something? Or has this ever happened before, and was there negative impact?
Well, the thing is, they did try it before in 2003, and council did put monies back into the budget to continue the program. What happened after that, I don't know, because they had the Medicaid clients, and the Medicaid clients then under Magellan, and I don't understand much about Magellan myself, but they were sent out to other firms. But basically the clients we deal with now continued with the county. We had 4 case managers until last year, and we're working with those clients now. And again, that's where my difference of opinion would be with Ross. If it's like anything else, and you're dealing with the Graysdale issue, and that's one of the issues you're dealing with there. The services. I don't know in the end what's going to happen with Graysdale. You're going to change the management team. Who knows what's going to happen? But in our case, I don't believe you're going to get the same services at these other agencies. Again, just because of the problems we've had just moving our clients to these other agencies, and now we have a whole heck of a lot of clients to move in a short period of time, and hopefully not a short period of time, but if we do have to move them, then I'm hoping we can somehow work something out with the county. We have enough time to make sure there's some transition.
Well, it sounded like there was a problem in 2003. I was not here, but it sounds like the solution was money. Mr. Marcus? Is money the driving factor here, or are we looking at providing better services and reaching out to more people? What seems to be the big thing? Is there a whole set of consumers that we have not reached out to, and this is the opportunity to do so, or is it just simply because it's something in 2003 there was a funding issue?
No. First of all, I think the proof is that the 49 people who are currently being served by the nonprofits are being served properly. And I don't think that should be lost in all of this conversation. The second thing is that the driver here is trying to serve as many people as possible. There are people falling through the cracks in our mental health system, and we're trying to alleviate that to the greatest degree that we can. So in Wendy and Kathleen's opinion, our priorities, more energy and more time needs to be spent on the aging population, the forensic population, and veterans. And this is the only way we're going to be able to do it.
Were these 4 nonprofits in existence back in 2003?
3 of them were. One of them is a newer provider of ICM services. They came on board with ICM maybe 5 years ago, but I'm not 100% certain at the time.
Were the changes in 2003 similar to what's going on now? Was there an expansion of services to more consumers, or was it actually a funding issue, as it sounded like?
The changes in 2003?
Yes.
When they tried to eliminate the program.
Right. Well, I wasn't a part of that.
Okay, maybe that.
In 2003, there was an opportunity, I guess, where they were looking to not fund certain positions. We had resource coordination at the time as well as ICM. I don't know how it played out as far as we were in front of county council. We did bring some of our clients up here. It was a money issue. And even though we were granted the money later, ICM basically stayed intact. We did lose our resource coordination, 3 positions, 1 for the children's resource coordination. And as a result of all of that, I did get to keep all the positions I had. So whatever was not funded was taken care of. And that's how we also got the opportunity to create 2 new positions, one being forensic and one being older adult as of 2004.
Is this an apples-to-apples kind of situation right now, 2011, 2003?
No, I think it's
So-
two different situations.
Two different situations. So we don't have basically cause and effect that's already established, because this is a new kind of situation. This is a new country, I guess.
And back then, the county was experiencing financial difficulties.
That doesn't sound unusual.
There you go.
That sounds apples to apples.
And but the difference is that there was immediate pressure to eliminate positions, and it was done on an across-the-board basis. And this time, we're doing it because of a change of priorities. We can hang on to all the staff people. We are not eliminating any positions. No one's job is in danger. All we're doing is reprioritizing the work that's done.
And in your more professional and more knowledgeable in these fields, no consumer is going to be
When Kathleen first
turned away or affected
I'm
negatively.
sorry, I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you-
I'm trying to figure out how to. We're playing a what if here,
Right.
right? Really big, and I'm trying to figure out how to formulate the questions, because
I guess I'm just trying to think, I think the dynamic was very different in
Absolutely.
2003. I mean, because as I remember when the county executive came to the council with the budget, we were not only eliminating people, we were eliminating people for service, or people who were not going to be serviced anymore, as I remember the issue.
Yes.
And council at that point said it's untenable, for what was a reasonably modest amount of money at that point, to not meet our match or even exceed our match if it meant that people in care somewhere. I don't think there was necessarily an issue of where that care was. In fact, it wasn't the people who would not be in care, and we thought that was inappropriate. So I think the report is Mr. Gregory's comments are point at that point, but I think we're looking at a different situation. I think it concerns me now, as you've said many times to this committee, but state budget dollars are going to be very different.
Yeah, I think the point to make here is when Kathleen first came to me and proposed this, I think she will tell you, I quiz her pretty well on these things, and I go through a pretty long list of questions on this. And then, as a result of Mr. Gregory's presentation at the last council meeting, I sat down with the three of them the other day, and we spent about, an hour and a half going through this. They've satisfied me that the consumer's needs can be met for nonprofit organizations. And just now I asked Wendy again about the issue of capacity, and she has assured me that the 4 nonprofits can indeed handle the 30 additional consumers.
I'm sure there's some type of benchmark that these nonprofits have to meet. I'm sure they're state certified, federally
This is a
certified.
licensed program by the state, absolutely.
So they meet the requirements.
They
by the
absolutely meet the
state.
requirements.
And aren't there maximum?
There are maximum number of consumers that can be seen by one agency, by one caseworker.
So they're not technically just warehousing a whole bunch of consumers
Absolutely
in so
not.
that they have good numbers on their books. These are people who are actually being serviced and cared for.
You have to meet criteria in order to be admitted into the intensive case management program. There's a matrix that's developed by the state where someone must have a certain level of need before they even qualify to get into intensive case management. There's a certain number of times a month you have to actually go visit the person. There are regulations, state regulations that govern the program, whether the program is provided by us as a county or an outside agency. And I think the point that I wanted to reiterate is the fact that already 49 county residents are currently being served in the community by these agencies. Deb Nunez and her unit is small. They were not serving all of the county-funded consumers, so 49 of them are already in the community. So what I'm hearing Jim saying is that only the county program can provide this quality service, and yet 49 of our residents currently, at this minute, are already being served in the community. This was an opportunity for us to do some planning, to take a look at some areas of need where we were not clearly meeting the need with these populations. Veterans. You only have to read the paper to see the number of young men and women coming back. The older adult We're an all-aging population. We've been hearing for a long time from our area agency on aging that we're not meeting the need and asking us to do more, which is what we've been trying to do and what we're hopeful to be able to do. And also the prison population. The mental health system often is criticized because we're, quote, warehousing our consumers in the prison system. What we're trying to do is prevent them from going in, but also to bring them out more quickly and more appropriately. So this will allow us to do that. I think the track record of already using these agencies, one of which started the same time in 1990, I believe it was actually, instead of 89, which was step by step, at the same time the county, and has functioned side by side with the county program since its inception in Northampton County. So there's a long history of these agencies working. Before we even decided, we asked Deborah to call the agencies to check on capacity, and she was assured that there was capacity. If there wasn't capacity, we would just wait until there was capacity. I don't know how else to reassure you, but I feel that the process was very thoughtful. No one is being put out. The implication that people are not getting service is not true. People will get service. People will get service from a different caseworker. Right now, we have one intensive case manager who's retiring. All of his consumers are going to get a new caseworker in the end of April because he's retiring. So regardless of whether he got a new caseworker from the in-house, from one of our workers, or went out to an outside agency, those individuals were going to get a new caseworker. So that's a natural, normal part of operating an agency. People retire, people quit.
Understood. How about these, trying to figure out, Mr. Gregory has a point where he's trying to promote that it's change, and this change is possibly negative to the effect. However, we're seeing a positive viewpoint being given that we're going to be able to reach out with the same resources, and we have resources today that apparently we didn't have, like, say, just as short as 5 years ago.
There are more agencies, correct.
There are more agencies now.
Correct.
So the 49 consumers that are there, have they been there for a while? I mean, what's probably the median?
Oh, I would have no idea. I mean, that could be any range. They could have just picked someone up, or they could have been serving someone for
Do you have like a good viewpoint as far as their services? Has there been complaints filed, or is there a course of action if anybody has a grievance with their service providers?
I can talk to you about all four of those providers. They're all in good standing with the state and with us as the county. They have the same ICM regulations they have to follow that our county staff had to follow. They actually have the additional oversight of Magellan Behavioral Health because they serve folks that receive MA. So Magellan is also providing oversight in addition, which our county staff, the oversight was just in-house and the state. So there are other eyes on these other agencies that we don't have on ours. What else could I tell you about these providers? I have worked with all of these providers for at least 10 years in some fashion or another. Before this job, I was the CHIP coordinator for 10 years, so more so than anyone else, I've been involved with all the provider agencies. And a lot of the folks that came out of Allentown State Hospital are served by these same agencies. And as you know from my previous testimony here, we've taken very seriously the closure of the state hospital and ensuring the safety of the individuals that are coming out of the state hospital. I wouldn't place someone in service or treatment that I wasn't positive they were going to get, excellent care.
Well, one thing is we definitely know that no one's accusing anybody of not looking at the consumers. Believe me, I've only been on council for a little more than a year. I've been to very many of the meetings, advisory board, and there's always been a focus on the consumer is always looked after, and the concerned people are they're just overwhelming as far as what is being done. It's just I can't argue that if you're changing people around, there is going to be an anticipated change, but sometimes there's change that occurs with any organization, whether someone retires or someone calls out sick for the day or a week or goes out on surgery. There's always people that are affected by change. I'm trying to figure out, on the pluses and minuses, one, what is the serious concern here? Is there a solution? And the biggest question here is, does even council have the ability to make any changes or any decision-making process here? Well, I mean, is there, from the sounds of it, we got a lot of positive stuff going on here, and I'm hearing that we're going to be able to reach out and help more people. That sounds good.
Yeah, administrators and policymakers and budget makers always can make those things sound.
You can't argue with numbers, right? Can you?
Well, yes, we can, actually. I mean, the one man trying to move it over now, Mr. Alexander, was mentioned, and, you know, he's having a struggle, and he's been working with it for over a month by now, and he's having a struggle moving his clients. And we have a number of more clients that they're asking us to move. And if it has to be done, I'm just asking that it be a slow process or a compromise where we continue to work. I mean, this prison population, and I won't go there too much, but before we deal with the prison population, maybe we can at least continue to work with our people that we have and not pick up new people, but at least for the security, getting them through the crisis, working with the people we have for a while, and slowly but surely. Sadly enough, I lost a couple of clients in the past few months between deaths and changes to other agencies, but over a period of time, then maybe they'll be weaned off the system, and then we can restructure. But now if we continue to work with them, at least they'll be secure, and then we can move to these other, slowly but surely move to these other. We already service older adults and veterans. I mean, so the only difference is the prison population. Do we want to leave the clients that we're securing now and go into a population that tends to reoffend and constantly working with them all the time and keep them out of trouble?
Well, one, recidivism, since I was able to say that correctly, at least I hope, is an issue, and it's a topic that gets constantly raised here. The prison administration is always called into question. It's there. It's we're going to deal with it, and it looks like the solution that's being presented is going to make a lot of people happy as far as being able to address some of these people. The only thing is, I noticed on the to-do list, you're looking at possibly dealing with the state ex-cons. As far as them, they're not being dealt with now, and even with these current changes, we still won't be dealing with them. We'll just look at expanding into that later on. Is that true?
Well, one of the positions I was hoping would start outreaching when we see that someone is going to be released in 6 months, that they would make the outreach call, start meeting with that person and talk about planning and putting proper services in place.
So it looks like we're not even going to be dealing with just county resident or county services. We're also looking at providing to people that weren't even in custody at the county level. So
These are residents.
They're residents.
But they will be county residents.
They still are county residents.
Yes, there are county residents, but
Okay.
right now we do not have anyone available to do that. We need someone to do that. We are missing
What will be
these
the difference
people.
in the total census of people with whom we deal? Total number.
Could you repeat your question?
What will be the difference in the total census of people with whom we'll be dealing?
It'll increase because
Yes.
the person's getting intensive case management right now will be getting it from an outside agency, and then the workers who are doing the work in-house will now be dealing with a new population of people who are not getting service now.
So the point is, we'll deal with more people for essentially the same budget?
Absolutely.
See,
Yes,
But
we will.
it's the outsourcing, it costs money to outsource.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
So maybe for the sake of outsourcing, maybe we need to create a new position? We have a person retiring. What's going to happen to that position?
That position we were going to ask to be filled. We were going to
Right.
actually come back and ask that position be filled as a peer specialist to doing some of the work that we're talking about. We started this reorganization last May, and Tom would have heard about some of it during our advisory board meetings. This is not something that we just started to do. We had a retirement of Marjorie Martin, a long-time 30-year deputy, and it was an opportunity for us to step back, take a look at what we were doing, and take a look at needs. And the supervisors met, and the needs were identified, and these were areas that we felt we needed a greater focus on. At the time, we were doing a lot of children's work. However, this was work that was the responsibility of Magellan Behavioral Health. And so we reassigned work from at least 2 children's workers who for many years had been doing it, and we reassigned them to other work. They were not happy about that. They were comfortable doing the work that they were doing. They felt that they valued the work. We valued the work. But we felt, after a careful analysis, that that work was being done and should be done by someone else, could be done by someone else, and the work that we were now going to ask them to do, and that was start working with some of these populations, housing, for instance.
Right.
We had to add a second housing worker. We could then serve more individuals. So the question of cost, yes, it will cost us to add service in the community. But I think that the numbers of persons that we can serve in these other capacities with an administrative case management, where you can see our workers, Debbie, what, 18, 15, 18 consumers in intensive case management. That's a maximum number of consumers. Whereas someone, I don't know how many Mike is seeing, but some of the new work, they will be able to see many more than that because they're not restricted by the intensive case management regulations and requirements.
Now, understand, when we all know, as far as all the new drop-in programs, the additional group homes, the hardship that was placed upon your agency as far as this closing of ASH, we've been hearing nothing but good things for the last year or so.
Yeah.
So when Mr. Gregory came up and started saying that there was possibly changes that were going forward that might be actually negative, it took a lot of us, you know, we were just totally unaware because we've heard nothing but good things, and I've sat there at the advisory board with you consumers there,
Right.
and there's nothing but praises for a lot of the stuff going on. So what we want to do is just basically kind of identify what could be the issues, and was there really something that, like I said, was something that council could fix or something. But if the numbers are going to be reaching out to additional consumers, and that's our goal, is to
Yeah, but we're basically transferring consumers that we're working with now, that we're doing a good job with, that have stability because of our help. And we're going out, reaching out to these other consumers, you know, which is all well and good. But again, we have people that are stable that we've been working with, and Ray's been probably asked about how many years, maybe 15, I don't know, 20 years that Ray's been working with some of these consumers. And we say, oh, next month you're going here because we're going to help work with the prison population. Now, I just don't get the trade-off. I think, you know, if there's enough, you know, I always know what issues are with the state and the federal government, and issues are with funding and everything else, but I can't understand how we can continue to serve some of the people working with now as we transition into the other services.
well, it sounds like they have more resources now that they didn't have before, and they're just utilizing those.
Excuse me. The other caseworker, Ray Murphy, would also like to address council, and we have someone from the public who I understand would also like to address council, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus, for pointing that out.
You know, my only question is, what would it take to just keep this in place and gradually do this? Gradually. I mean, change is so difficult for people, and I can imagine how difficult it must be for someone with issues. Not that we don't all have them, those too, but I went from a junior high to a middle school, and that was traumatic for many people. So I'm just wondering, would it be possible for us to do some phasing of the 50 people that you have now? And are you you're not abolishing the ICM department?
No, we will no longer have an intensive case management unit.
You won't. So they are getting rid of that unit, of that department.
Yes.
That's
But
service.
internally.
That it serves.
That's service.
Right. That
internally.
particular service you're getting.
But a lot of the folks will still, what is it, 18? 18 of the 50 consumers will still be served by...
Because they're older, or veterans, or whatever.
Or older adults.
So, okay.
So we're talking about 30 individuals.
So about 30 people. It makes it even easier then, I would think, to give them a little transition time, a year or so, or whatever, to
But I think that's
get
what...
used to someone new.
I'm sorry, excuse me. That's why we're also, now is a good time to do it because one of the caseworkers is retiring. So there's going to be change regardless for his caseload.
For his 18 people.
Or whatever number he serves, there's going to be change
18. So we
anyway.
still, that takes us down to only
12
people
Right. So it would
who
be,
are going to be traumatized, perhaps. No?
I really just don't think, I think we can do that smoothly.
I'm not so sure that the change in and of itself is difficult.
I do. I think it's traumatic.
Involved in a bit of that. But the other side is, without this, there's a segment of population we can't meet.
My name is Ray Murphy. I have a unique perspective as both a consumer of mental health services and an intensive case manager. I hope I make it through tonight because tomorrow is my 20-year anniversary. And I've had exactly the same job for 20 years. And my wonderful boss, Debbie Nunez, is here, and she's been my boss for 20 years. Now, I'm not going to say anything bad about her, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Ross. He gave me a lifesaver. And I'm not going to say anything bad about Kathleen because we went to China together. Wendy, I'm sorry. Thank you for listening to us, and I want to thank Jim Gregory for coming to you first and bringing up the issue. And I did want to make a strong comment on your second handout that I had that I passed out. Jim and Mr. Stofa exchanged emails, and I've highlighted the parts that I was interested in Mr. Stofa's response. I think the point I'd like to make is that I complain. I advocate for people who complain. Most of my job is to complain, and I think that it is demeaning to tell mental health consumers that they cannot complain. I'll just leave it at that. The other thing that has not been discussed is issues within our union agreement as it relates to seniority and abolishing units. Like,
Excuse me. I noticed that some of the copies were from, it looks like labor contract.
yeah.
Understand, we're not here today. I mean, we'd like to keep it open and everything, but as far as labor agreements, that's the administration, and we've been told no one's losing their job.
I understand that. What I'd like to say about that, though, is that we have positions being abolished at the county, ICM positions. We have new positions being established. According to the union agreements, in general, those old positions should have a chance to bump into less senior positions. I'm a 20-year worker, and I have been assigned as an older adults caseworker, which I like, and I'm happy to do. However, I don't have a choice. So everyone else in the bargaining unit has, is in their position, and I don't have a choice to bump someone because I've been reassigned. Now, that's especially true of Jim, who does not like his reassignment. Just for your information. I just want to give you that for your information. The matter is still in process concerning 8 positions that were previously reassigned, and Kathleen has explained to us very openly that our positions have been reassigned. However, a different take on what's happened to us is that positions have been abolished and new positions have been established without a layoff procedure and without a new hiring procedure. So, I also wanted to mention there's a newspaper article that I'm passing around, that one from '93 and one from 2004, both of which I was around for. But that gives an idea of the type of things that we do on the job. And it's something that we like, that we're invested in, that we care about. The other factor that I do want to mention is that as a part of an on-call unit, or as a part of a mental health intensive unit, we have an on-call component. And that component will go away with the unit. Because that component has gone away, Jim and myself are going to lose $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year. That was a part of that unit.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
the topic was basically the effects on the clients. I feel
okay.
that we're trading into areas that we really
Okay.
don't belong.
I'll pass. I'll pass.
Thank
I'll
you
back
very
off. Any questions?
We have.
Do you feel that, if we had the 12 people that are going to have to go to new, that could be kept within this unit, do you feel that would be a reasonable solution to transition them slowly?
Well, yes. Yes, I do. I would like,
Or if at all?
to be honest, I would like things to remain the same.
Oh,
I
yeah,
want
we all
Debbie to
do.
come back.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a unit. I was interested, Wendy said that there were 49 clients in the 4 other agencies. My caseload as of right now is 22, 23 clients for myself. And that's with 3 of us. So we're talking, what, 50 clients?
I'll explain it.
Okay.
Because someone's out.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But the other thing is, looking at the other 4 agencies, if they have 49 or 50 clients, they have a supervisory structure that they're supporting. They have, all kinds of administrative costs that we've developed in order to establish 4 agencies that are basically doing the same thing and now replacing what we do. Thank you. There is one consumer here.
Well, before the consumer comes forward, I just want to point out to everybody here before they come up and speak, this is being recorded, this is broadcast on a web. There is no limits to who's seen it. It could be anyone in any country. Our viewership has been increasing as far as our emails have stated, so we might be looking just want to point out that this is not very much a client-provider privileged discussion.
I
So if anyone comes
understand
forward,
that.
it's completely public. No, this is a public environment, and if someone comes forward, then we don't block out people's faces, we don't do anything, so...
I think they're aware of that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's very, very clear, so if people are, if there's information being provided, protection of HIPAA, client person, privileges...
I understand that. We talk to clients. We ask their permission. They don't come without their permission, and they will not say anything without their
with
permission.
what I just stated right now, if they're in the audience right now, they would clearly understand they're doing this completely on a voluntary
Sure,
nature.
absolutely, and I agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dawn Brown, and I'm a client of Jim's. And I'm not exactly sure what to say here. We've spent about the past 3 years together, and we've formed a really nice, it's a friendship at this point. He comes out to my house every other week, and no matter how awful I feel, I still get dressed, I still look forward to the appointment, and by the time he's done and he's ready to go, I'm feeling better. I am able to get up and do a little bit more than I was able to before he came there. He's helped me with the Social Security stuff and the career link. He's involved in the community. He's able to, where I'm at and one of his other clients are, there's an organization called Community Exchange, and he's trying to get the people involved, his clients involved in that as well. I don't really want to start over. I like Jim. I like what we have. It's very comforting, and I can't imagine starting all over again with somebody new. And I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you very much. I have a couple hands coming up. I think Mr. Marcus first.
I just wanted to address, I think Mrs. Ferraro was concerned about some of the numbers, and I just want to explain that in addition to intensive case management, there's another lower level of service. I understand there's two names for it, targeted case management or blended case management. And that's why Mr. Murphy's caseload exceeds the 18 maximum. It's because some of those consumers are not intensive case management.
Those
So
are some that will be at the lower level you were talking about?
Yeah, a lower
or
level of service,
level
a
of
less
service?
intensive
That's-
level. Okay, and it's not a regulated service the way intensive case management is. Oh, it is regulated? Excuse me, it is regulated. Should have stopped while I was ahead.
Yes. Everything's regulated.
Mr. Gregory, you had your hands up.
Yeah, one thing I should mention, too, when we're talking about those other 12 or 15 clients, at least 2 or 3 of my caseload, if not 4, their spouses or significant others have expressed concern because they said it's taken them a while to form that bond of trust. And because of the fact that we'll no longer be serving them, they will probably drop off the face of the earth and not be served. And that's a concern. Obviously, part of our job is to, try to convince them to do otherwise, but it's something that, especially with Ray, has developed over 15, 20 years. And if we're talking a small amount of people, again, while we transition into the prison populations and otherwise, I'm not sure why we just can't compromise and still continue to work with the clients. That we won't be called ICMs, doesn't matter. We'll still lose the $5,000 a year for on-call. I don't care. My dog will have to eat dollar food,
A lot of folks have lost $5,000 a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a 10% pay cut.
wouldn't be unique.
I'll live with it. My point, however, is, though, if we transition them into, whether it's older adult, we can change the age of older adult, I'm assuming. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is we need to protect those people. And a few will drop through the cracks if we don't protect them. And there's a middle ground here that I'm sure we can find to work with. And, again, like I said, at least 3. If not 4, people probably will not continue with services. And somebody out there will be happy because somebody won't have to pay for it. But, again, in the future, as I said, it gets expensive. If they end up in a hospital, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So I just wanted to make note of that.
And I sympathize, I really 100%. What I'm trying to get my arms around is...
A compromise is what I
not even
am.
a compromise. I mean, the challenges are there. We know full well that the largest segment of the state budget is human services, not in education. We know that the state has a significant budget deficit. No. Reasonably certain that every phase of county government is going to be hit by reductions in funding. That happens, the only alternative we have to maintain the same level of services to raise taxes here.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
So that's a point. Second point is the cohort of people who require services in the county is growing. Prison population, veteran population, which is increasing due to injury, the people coming back from war, aging population, and so I think the throughput is going to be greater. The challenge comes for amateurs here to put myself top of the class to begin making those decisions because, I mean, quite frankly, we don't have a clue this way. I mean, we know it feels good. I don't think we know what's best, and I sympathize 100%, but I just don't know what's the best decision to make. All I know is the demands on us are going to be enormous, and the resources that we have to address them are going to be diminishing. So the same simply isn't going to work. At least I don't see how it works. I think it's happening at every level of human service. I had a chance to work at the Children's Home for 10 years, and I look at the youngsters that are coming through human services today. Number one, far smaller number of kids, and different child. And so I think that issue becomes true in every phase. I don't know where we go, other than if we're going to keep things the same and add people and reduce our income, I don't know what the answer is. And transition seems wonderful, and I think if in the best of all worlds, I don't have the answer. I don't know if Mr. Stoff has the answer. I don't think the dedicated staff has the answer. I don't know where we go. But at the same, doesn't seem to me to be a a reasonable way to look at this. I'm not sure this is the best plan. How would I know, Frank? I know what I feel, not what I know.
I know the best. I fully believe and trust. We've worked with Kathleen, Deb forever, and CHIPS program, and I've always appreciated your knowledge and your compassion. And but I just feel there's some way we can just keep these 20 people under a little bit closer, tighter umbrella until, we're certain and certainly sure that they're going to be okay. I've dealt with this a lot in my own family, so it's near and dear to my heart.
Sure. I guess a couple of points. One of the practical points of all of this is there is an after-hours component. And as you reduce the staff, it becomes more and more difficult to staff the after-hours component of the program. And so one of our concerns is if we reduce the staff anymore, then how do we maintain that after-hours component? And so that works against just having one intensive case manager, because that person can't be expected to be on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And that in essence would be what would happen. The other practical consideration is the supervision. We were going to use that supervisor's position in another area where there is a desperate need for another supervisor, where I've been bugged for 3 years to add a supervisor, and we've resisted and we've resisted and resisted to keep the staff complement down. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to reassign that supervisory position to another area. The point is there's just some practical considerations that work against what you have in mind. This isn't, my resistance isn't out of stubbornness. It's out of the practicality of making it work.
I think Mike really hit the nail on the head when he said we're basically amateurs here. And we put a lot, in a very short time, I've come to greatly appreciate the staff that's over there. And it's not just like sheepskin on a wall or something. These are people that actually, when you talk to them, their focus has always been the consumers. And they do once again, you see another group that's doing the best they can with the resources that are provided to them. And when I look at this, the resources that are being provided to them are basically the same as it was last year, because we didn't see any massive increases. We're actually seeing a decrease in funding. But you're telling me that you're going to be able to reach out and help more people. That sounds like a win-win situation for all of us. You're going to be doing more with less, and that's what we all are anticipated to do in our own family household economics, and this is what's being done at the government level. So the win, it sounds like very much a win here, and I understand Mr. Gregory's concerns here about changes, but like I said, we have to deal with a lot of changes in our life. What happens if, that someone would get sick or retires? There are changes within the program. You don't shackle people to their desks if they find a better job. So there's a lot here. But as far as I can tell, is we already amateurs here. We weren't looking at making any decisive decisions here today. This is just information gathering. And from stuff we've heard it's been very positive. And I think Mr. Gregory, with his hands up, waving in the background, is deciding that he wants to add something to the discussion further.
But I too think that's why we're going up. I think that's the reason. County government is just, to me, so much different from other governments. The state, sure, they have their human service budget, but they don't have a face on it. It's easier for them to cut. They don't have a face on it the way the people in the field and day-to-day have a face on it. We're not fixing roads. We're the people part of government. And if there's any part of government that needs more compassion, it's county-level government. And I think our management and I think our workers do so much for so little money and reimbursement. but I think that always has to be part of our equation,
And
too.
next door in Lehigh County, they have 7 what called blended case managers, similar to what Ray's doing, and they're doing a fine job, and they're obviously fitting it within their budget. Maybe we can look over there and find out what they're doing right. But even if they don't call us ICMs anymore, it doesn't matter. What I would say to Tom is, yes, we can expand the services. Like I said, go into the older adults, veterans. We still cover them under whatever you call us. I don't even know what I'm going to be called when we change services, but we can. Why not continue working with those people and transition and still work with the other? It's a new field for all of us, myself for sure, with the forensic part of it, but. We can still expand those services, but still keep the people that we're working with now. Change the age of now. Our older adults are 55. I'm not. Can we say 45, 40, and continue to work with probably 95% of the people we're working with now? I don't know.
Two questions that are more curiosity, frankly. One is, what would be an effective transition period? What would you suggest? That sounded aggressive. I didn't mean to sound aggressive.
No, that's fine. I understand that. Well, like I said, we're losing Mr. Alexander in April, and obviously I'm here. I wish they would replace him with another person and continue our supervisor, continue a program. But we're losing him at the end of April, and I would say that would be that would pretty much leave me and Ray, and that would be a significant transition period, at least of a couple months. To right now, we haven't. A number of our people aren't even aware yet. So I would hope. If we are transition, we're cutting them off, then we'd at least have that transition.
Transition to me means an eventual move to total change.
Right.
So 2 years, 3 years. I mean, I'm not sure. How long does it take them?
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, right. Well, again, a number of people are always transitioning, but if we're not picking up new clients, probably, maybe a year or 2 years with the people. But again, you don't have to call us ICMs even if you're not going to do that. We could still keep those people, and we're spreading them out within two workers.
Second question would be, let's presume that we have money. Let's just presume we have money.
Hey, I keep giving money to casino.
Maybe let us fantasize that we have
keeps
money.
coming to the county.
What would it cost to keep it the way it is and add the client base you're talking about?
We would, let's just use the figure for I'm sorry. Let's just use
I don't have a check, but I'm just wondering.
Okay.
But not take any.
Well, we're taking 50 new clients. We're going to take these. I'm saying you keep things the way it is, and then add the people you want to add.
Well, then you're adding, 4 new positions. So you're talking well over $200,000.
Right, I mean, that's what I was thinking about.
You're talking about continuing the entire service.
I'm talking about continuing the service as we have, because I think that's what people are asking for, and adding people that we think need service. So we're looking at $250,000.
Yeah,
Well, my concern
probably
is-
around $250,000.
Well, we're asking just to keep the client base we have now,
And deny service to that?
Anybody new coming in would go to the nonprofit.
Well, what I'm thinking is, Parker's just stated, if you magically had more money, would you keep the status quo, or would you look at further expanding your expansion that you were intending? Would you even keep it? Would you look at maybe servicing another 30 clients with these nonprofits? I know we're playing the magic game, I'm terribly
This sort of
sorry
thing-
about that.
Dangerous game.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
is
It's a dangerous game
because
for us to play.
actually, probably what I would do is there are other divisions that are bleeding even worse than the mental health program. And so if you gave me $250,000 for this and then more, I think I'd start looking at some other programs. Aging is, right now, we are making tough decisions about cutting back services because we don't have the money. So, if you don't mind, it's not that I'm trying to avoid the question. It's
No,
just
it's
too
not
difficult.
even a fair question, because no one's going to drop a bucket of money out of sky
They aren't.
either.
In fact, it's going the other way, as Reverend Dowd pointed out. We're facing probably 15% cut next year, almost across the board. And it's looking more and more like 15% might be optimistic.
Well,
So,
once again, even if we came up with a decision, we really don't have that power to influence what's going on with mental health. Especially since, once again, I'm getting the impression that they're not only are they doing their good job, but they're going to do it to more a larger audience. I mean, the consumer base is going up. We're going to be able to reach out to more. And I understand the changes and everything, right? And
Well, my policy, too, I'd probably express the same thing.
so what ends up is, like I said, this is just information gathering and everything. Once again, every time these ladies come up and we discuss this or go over the meeting, I'm just absolutely, wowed by what they do. And once again, I don't see a lot of the negatives here. In retrospect of the positives that are that they're able to provide, and your passion for your consumers, perfect. That's another example of where people are concerned about the consumers, and it's commendable. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. However, we still have to basically run the agency.
Right, but again, we're not talking, as Peg recognized, we're not talking about a heck of a lot more people. And don't forget, even though there are cutbacks in state and federal funding, they're still paying a good percentage of our salaries, and maybe, I'm not sure how the benefit whole situation works, but, and, it's just a matter of priorities, I guess, for the county. But we're not talking again.
And I think we are here for information gathering. Obviously, that's our only purpose for, at this meeting. But I just hope that, some of this is taken into consideration. At least our perception is taken into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank everybody, Mr. Marcus, of course, as always, Mr. Gregory, Mr. Murphy, of course, Wendy, Kathleen, and Deborah Nunez. I'm absolutely amazed. If people had more of an opportunity to see what's being done in certain aspects of government, government would lose a stigma that it currently possesses with certain people. But it is one of those areas where you can be very proud of what's being done, and like I said, being able to reach out and help more people. That's amazing, especially at these, with these economic pressures that we're under. So, and then also to see people like Mr. Murphy and Mr. Gregory that are really concerned about the consumers. I think it's just another testament to the good work you're doing there. I'd like to thank you, everyone. Just real quick, I see more people. If there's anybody at the courtesy floor, anybody in closing, to see no one came forward, we'll adjourn the meeting until next regularly scheduled meeting, I guess. Thank you very much for attending.
23 minutes from now, huh?